Hello. Uh, Look, I hate to be the bad guy. I don't want to. I'm really antagonized. You guys don't know what it's like. I know because I've looked, and people like me are only mass shooters. Okay, that's literally what they're expecting for politics to supply some political antagonism. I just want to be a scientist and possibly a performer. I love to do that, but I don't. I didn't have the education, and this is really a name game. Okay, that I would say that my great grandfather got a job as a railroad engineer, driving the train, I suppose, repairing it a little. But in a time of global foolishness, okay, because Professor Moriarty means drugs, basically. Okay, that's a professional Mariani. This is like hardcore drugs were still legal back in the 1800s. And driving a train, you can do the sort of the radical sort of thinking there of someone, it could be conceived as a supply chain train. Okay, Ozzy Osbourne perhaps wrote the lyrics. I don't know, or Jerry Garcia, and I like to take the lyrics and make them into magic, but I can't do that without people responding rationally, and that's the only reason I'm here. And engineering wise, I've tried to come up with the most advanced transport concepts. And I mentioned, I wrote some stuff about this to Tesla, and I felt like I was the bad guy for being a West American straight guy. Okay, trust me, all the big techs knows this divine conspiracy. Okay, that George Washington is playing the fool, and it's it's stupid, completely idiotic, and I don't want to be in that desperate situation of trying to explain that because it just comes off purely as an insult, obviously, instead of just being an absolute engineer who is on the economy's side rather than in some awkward, painful position that drives the economy sideways or indeed into some racist cop out. Okay, because that is surely where George Washington was, and the communications thing. The I only am here to I'd say wisdom, but every time I say it, I know that there's a conspiracy, an heavily active propaganda and sort of lucid, these. I had I came to Ireland in 1999 before I did any of the science I did, and I stayed in a tiny town as far away from everything as could be. It was just a incidental that I did that, and the guy who owned the hotel where I stayed, I was good friends with them, really good friends. But every time his phone would ring, his mobile phone, he would become possessed. He really would. It was unnerving because everything was kind of hunky dory. Hanging out. A few other people were around. Not too many. He didn't tolerate anyone he didn't like. That was very good for my composition. We were good friends. There was an American there as well. Lived with his sister. And okay, and I wish I had gone to the kibbutz, but no one was going to go with me. I wish I had never gone anywhere by myself, especially the internet. I'm only here because I saw a lot of really crazy stuff and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't really explain it. No one, became a divine conspiracy when I was a kid. And all of Hollywood, okay, I really wish that I could work for you guys and with you guys and all the people who care, okay, with all the, you know, maybe it's psychiatry. Okay, I am definitely like really upset, and I wish I could just chill someplace without any distress. Mediation, without any phones. Actually, they do not help at all. And I could just be people's friends, okay, and not, have a phone ring and people get possessed, because that is what's happening. I see this. I've seen it. Oh, okay. The desperate attempt to communicate, you know, and I can't convince anyone because they're all convinced that Professor Moriarty or Richard Nixon's Jack Brennan on my birthday, that this is all some conspiracy, that I'm the divine scapegoat, that I'm the enemy. I'm not, okay? Unless if you are like, you don't want to speak English. I know there are a lot of people like that. They can't, don't, or won't. And that is my identity, the Latin as well. I think that's fantastico. But I just, if I was there, I would sign a lifetime agreement and I'd be invisible. I really wish that would happen and not have any idiotic conversations because that's all it is. Okay? I have a vision and I can quantify that. And politics doesn't need to occupy our existence. We don't need politics. Okay, we don't. It's purely because of communications, basically, and greed. And the supply chain is basically very easily a narcotic rat race. And I will help defeat that to quantify that, so that it truly, I truly have the vision of everything, and it requires a really compassionate and yet qualified existence to write it out. I couldn't do it in California, okay, and ain't nobody out there does any sort of rational stuff, and I can do some compositions briefly with the research, as long as I'm isolated, okay. And I really wish that would happen. That it wasn't this is Richard Nixon's ally because of my name, because the day my parents were driving to the hospital with the Black Panthers waiting at home, okay, because they were trying to avoid the Vietnam War, getting sent there as cannon fodder supply, instead of having a fantastic journey to the to the old world, the global south, indeed, the ancient world, with scholars and and people who actually care, not just about money, okay, but actually about culture and everything that matters. I will quantify that. And I talk about policy and technology being smushed into politics instead of being separated, so that the policy is very clear and the technology is very controlled, and and you would have a smooth running system where you could harness that energy instead of it being shoved into a television and a telephone and into a bad joke. Okay, and if I'm offending people, I'm sorry, but I'm just, I see a lot of goddamn dead fucking people that I'm, the only one who can explain that. And I just want to have a sanctuary so that there isn't a bad joke of endless mass shootings or some sort of blame game like, oh, this is definitely your fault,